year is 1972. Woods and Mason are on their way to Vietnam after being drafted. Woods and Mason are friends that met in a training camp, preparing for the war. Mason considers Woods a scaredy cat who needs him, but knows that he needs courage to survive this conflict. Woods considers Mason everything that he isn't: confident, reliable, and optimistic. Mason, knowing that Woods is a scaredy cat, wakes him up in a plane screaming,
Woods! Woods! We are under attack!
Woods suddenly screams, getting Colonel Shepard's attention.
Jesus, Woods! We aren't even in Nam yet. You're yelling like a wussy.
Woods then apologizes. Sorry, Colonel, it won't happen again. Colonel Shepard sharply responds, Damn right, if you scream again, we're throwing you out the plane. Woods embarrassingly asks Mason,
What the hell, man? What was that for?
Mason laughs, saying, My bad. I'm just getting you ready for Nam was all. Woods in embarrassment doesn't fall asleep for the rest of the ride. Meanwhile, Mason seemingly falls into a deep thought with a surprisingly serious face. The plane lands in Saigon, and straight away, Woods is worried. Mason tries to calm him down, telling him, Hey man, there's nothing to worry about. Look, we just landed. Let's go to our rooms and relax for the night. They head for the rooms. On the way, they notice how most people get around with motorbikes instead of cars. They think it's because of how much easier it is to get around, and the lack of parking spaces, which they are right on, but it's also because Vietnamese people can't afford a car. They also notice the famous Asian conical hat, or non la as it is called in Vietnam. They comment on how lively it is. They also run into a prostitute offering services, but decline the offer. They then start to notice the abundance of prostitutes and wonder if maybe things aren't that well in Vietnam. They go back to the hotel and start to just talk. After all, they have a long day ahead of them. Mason asks Woods, Hey dude, I was thinking, if you had to kill a man to save him, would you? Woods answered quickly, saying, Of course I would, man. You're the only person I have in this hellhole. Mason responds with, Would you really? I mean, this person has a family that loves them, and it's fine to not be controlled by another country again. Woods replies, I didn't think of that. Mason responds, saying, Of course you didn't. Why would you humanize an enemy trying to kill you? When it matters the most, you'll hesitate and be killed. Woods then says that it's not good to humanize them, so then you'll actually survive. No, it's not good to dehumanize them. Sure, it's helpful to yourself, but to dehumanize a person and kill them? Not thinking they're a person? Woods responds to Mason, asking, Why are we here then? Mason answers him, saying, Jesus, why do you think? So then other people won't have to come and sacrifice themselves. Woods responds, saying, I guess you're right. What do I do then? Mason replies, You just leave everything to me. I'll protect you. Mason then says, I think that's enough for tonight. Let's go to bed. Woods replies, Yeah, let's go to bed. They turn off the lights and go to bed. Woods thinks on everything Mason said to him. A new day begins. Wood wakes up, then wakes up Mason, and they get started. Wood mentions to Mason that he doesn't like the fact he leaves the cap on the toothpaste open. Mason retorts by saying Wood should stop labeling everything he owns. They put on their uniforms and make their way to the home base, where they greet Colonel Shepard and sit down waiting for his instruction. Colonel Shepard starts off with the big news that the base of the Viet Cong has been found. Hearing that news, the room erupts into cheers, which annoys Colonel Shepard, who screams, Shut your goddamn mouth! Colonel Shepard begins sharing his plan. There will be 4 groups that are being sent. Group 1 will go from the front and be a decoy. That'll get the enemy's attention and try to stall for time. Group 2 will sneak in and occupy the base. During the distraction and during all this, Group 3 and 4 will surround the base and make sure nobody understands. This will be called Operation Nightfall. Understand? The entire room screams,
Sir, yes, sir, sir.
Everybody's told the group they are in, and as luck would have it, Mason and Woods are set to storm the base. Woods is terrified out of his mind, but Mason tells him not to worry, that he'll protect him so that he can get back home and have a nice long drink, hoping to forget this war. Woods says, You make it sound so easy. Mason quickly takes him to a corner and says, Look, this plan uses us as the decoys. So look, I have an idea. We'll run as soon as shots start coming. We gotta preserve our own lives. After hearing what Mason said, Woods responds, "Are you sure? What if we don't have enough time?" Mason quickly replies, "I know it sounds crazy. I know the chances of an opening are slim, but this is our only chance. We both can't take the life of another person." Woods responds, "Fine, I'll put my faith in you. After all, I believe in you, man." Mason responds, "Good. Now let's get back and join in the group." They get their equipment. Mason comments how the gun feels way heavier than usual. They then start Operation Nightfall. They head out to the jungle and it begins pretty easy. But the more Mason and Woods make their way through the hot, humid jungle, the harder it is to keep the pace. Because of the climate, and they start dripping in sweat. Mason comments, "My god, it's so hot. Maybe it's divine intervention telling us to turn back." Woods replies, "If this is divine judgment, I think God wants us dead." Mason replies, "Well, you aren't wrong on that." And they both laugh. But to say the least, they might have thought they were ready for war, but they definitely weren't ready for the hot, humid environment. They keep walking, then they get word that the base is just 1 mile away, and they are almost there. Wood says, "What the hell? It's only a mile away." Mason replies, "So we should get ready for anything." They then start getting ready for the battle. Mason and Woods make their way to the base. Nearly there, then it happens. From the bushes, bullets come out. Mason screams, "Woods, run!" Woods, however, stays completely still in fear as their group is trying to fight them off, but are starting to lose in numbers. Mason grabs Wood by the arm and starts running. Mason screams, "What the hell is wrong with you? Run!" Woods is just barely able to run out of fear, but he keeps up with Mason. Then Mason yells, "Keep running! We gotta get out of here!" They keep running and running. Woods and Mason think they're about to get away when Mason sees it and doesn't even hesitate. He jumps on top of Wood screaming, "Get down!" Then Wood wakes up, wondering what happened. His ears are ringing, he's in pain, his body hurts, and his vision is blurry. He then remembers what happened and looks for Mason. When he turns to see Mason lying there, Wood screams, "Oh God, please no!" But then, in all the ringing, he hears faint gunshot noises, and they're getting louder, so he tries to run, carrying Mason away. Woods carries Mason, who he prays is still alive. Wood starts to think to himself, "Why didn't I run? Why was I so stupid and stood still? Oh God, this is all my fault." He keeps running through. He has to face that Mason is still alive. He keeps trying to get out of the battle zone. He then notices his hand. It's wet. He looks down. It's blood. Blood as crimson as roses. Then Woods, not knowing what to do while running, starts to weep and scream, "No, no, 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 no!" Running away from the battle, carrying Mason in tears, he thinks of what to do. When he decides he should get Mason back to Saigon to try to save Mason, even if it's only a 1% chance that he can, he knows he has to get back to Saigon. Mason's life depends on it. Woods keeps carrying Mason's back. He's holding on to the faith that Mason can be saved. Then at first, he hears a loud bang and hopes it's just another battle happening. Then it gets louder. Woods starts to run. He sees shots pass him. He thinks to himself that he won't stay still. He'll protect Mason. But the shots keep coming. One grazes his shoulder, another his leg. He knows he has to find a place to hide soon. When Mason, barely able to speak, says to him, "Just let me go. I'll cause a diversion. I'll get their attention." Woods says, "No, I can't." Mason retorts, "Come on. We both know I won't make it." Woods says, "But," and is cut off by Mason. With his last bit of strength, pushes himself off Woods, falling to the ground. Woods tries to go back, but sees the Viet Cong coming. Mason says, "I'm glad I knew you. Woods, please live. Don't let this go to waste." Woods sadly leaves Mason behind and starts to run away. He looks back one more time and says, "Thank you!" while crying his eyes out. Mason smiles and said, "No, thank you for helping me enjoy these last few months. Goodbye, Woods." He keeps running and running. He doesn't know where to go. He trips while running, hoping for any safe lines. He looks around. Woods thinks he sees a cave. He goes towards it. He goes in and finds a dead rabbit and a fox eating it to protect itself. And maybe out of fear, he shoots the fox and then just sits down. As the days pass by, he can't get it out of his head that it was his fault. He caused the death of Mason for not running and staying still like a total loser. He wishes things were different. He wishes he could go back and change things. And as thoughts keep coming, he keeps blaming himself more and more to the point where he hates himself for what happened. Then, after enough days have passed, he starts to go back to Saigon. Even then, making his way back, the thoughts don't leave him. He keeps thinking about what he could have done differently. After making his way back to Saigon, he doesn't know what to do. He goes to his room and thinks on what his next move should be. He sees the toothpaste bottle is open, and it reminds him of Mason, and he thinks what Mason would do. He then decides to take responsibility for his mistakes and go to headquarters and report everything he did. He sees Colonel Shepard, and the colonel notices him and is surprised. He runs to him and asks, "Oh my God, how are you alive?" Wood answers saying, "Mason sacrificed himself to let me run away." Colonel Shepard's eyes widen. Then the colonel looks down and says, "I'm glad someone made it back. The mission failed completely. They expected us and hid in the trees and bushes. We never saw it coming." Wood stepped back for a moment, and then it all came together in his head, and he screamed at the colonel, "This is all your fault! You killed Mason!" Colonel Shepard took off his hat and looked down and said, "You're right. This is completely my fault. I'll take responsibility for the lives lost and apologize to you." Woods angrily said, "Sorry? You're sorry? If you're sorry, get me off this goddamn country." The colonel agrees to send him back the next day. Wood makes his way back to his room and goes straight to bed so he can go to sleep straight away. Then in the middle of the night, Wood wakes up screaming. He had a terrible nightmare reliving the day he had. Woods couldn't sleep for the rest of the night. He kept getting scared of the nightmare he had. When he finally got up and made his way to the airport, he felt relieved, finally going back. Woods went to sleep during the plane ride, and again he woke up screaming to the same nightmare again, the passengers looking at him like a crazy person. After making his way back to the States, the country hasn't really changed that much. The only one who changed was Woods. Those days haunt Woods. He has nightmares recalling those nights every day. His lack of sleep ruins how productive he used to be, and whenever he tries getting a job, he gets rejected. What's worse is that when people hear he is a veteran, they always try to avoid him. It's like people hate him for being there, when he never even hurt a single person. It isn't just him either. Many other veterans are going through the same thing as seen on the news. It isn't all bad though. Wood's family supports him, trying to get his life back on track, helping him with his trauma every day, hoping that one day he'll finally recover from those days in Vietnam. The Vietnam War was a proxy war involving the United States and South Vietnam against North Vietnam, China, and the USSR. Of course, at the end of the day, it was just another proxy war with the same goal to stop the spread of communism. The question that most of you might be wondering is, well, if it was just another proxy war, why was the US so intent on winning? The answer is simple. The US believed that if Vietnam became a communist country, the rest of Southeast Asia would follow, since they were thinking that they considered losing unacceptable, and given the result of the war, this would be the last time people were drafted into the US Army. The war went on to be one of the most controversial wars in US history, being the first war to implement guerrilla warfare, which is an irregular warfare in where small groups of military soldiers, such as paramilitary personnel, armed civilian, or irregulars use military tactics including ambushes, sabotage, raids, petty warfare, hit-and-run tactics, and mobility to fight a larger and less mobile traditional military. Using guerrilla warfare, they were able to destroy the US Army both physically and notably mentally, since throughout the war, the soldiers who came back were never the same. Many soldiers who came back suffered from PTSD. The soldiers were hated by most. The My Lai massacre, where American soldiers attacked and killed 347 to 504 unarmed Vietnamese civilian men, women, and children and babies. This event caused all veterans to be hated by the public, even if they didn't do anything wrong. The Vietnam War was a very controversial war, to say the least. To be honest, I don't think the US should have been as involved as they were, because at the end of the day, the whole war happened because they were scared communism would spread all throughout Southeast Asia. The ironic part is, even after they lost the war, it never even ended up spreading. They quite literally fought the war for no reason. It's no wonder this war is looked back upon with embarrassment. Pitifully, society treated the soldiers who came back horribly. Many couldn't find a job because their employers didn't want anything to do with them because of their reputation. I feel like the biggest injustice is that since most veterans couldn't get jobs, they couldn't afford to get help for their PTSD. I couldn't imagine risking my life for the country, then being hated by the people I swore to protect. It's terrible for any veteran to have to go through. Imagining myself in their position just hurts thinking about it. The amount of despair I'd be in during the war, being just scared of walking in the jungle because soldiers could be hiding in bushes or trees, or despair of coming back and just being abandoned by society, it's honestly near impossible to handle. It's amazing the soldiers persevered through both ordeals. Now for the epilogue, or rather the punchline. If there are any lessons to be learned from this conflict, I guess it would be to fear the power of the media. All throughout the war, the media was broadcasting it all as the first televised war. So instead of fearing any army of soldiers, it's smarter to fear an army of angry citizens. Because in many ways, the people are the ones who ended the war with their protests. They most likely would not have realized how badly the war was going if it wasn't for the media broadcasting it all to the people in their homes. Of course, there are other lessons like not jumping to conclusions based on fears, because that's what started the war, an unjustified fear. Like all fears, they cloud our judgment and cause us to make decisions we wouldn't usually make. In the end, I feel as though we shouldn't have let our fears get the better of us, nor should we forget the power media holds when it comes to shaping our opinions, because that is, at the end of the day, where we form our beliefs on current events.